NATO member Lithuania placed sanctions on Kaliningrad, a small Russian territory on the Baltic Sea. This cuts off access to the sea by the Russian Navy and launches what history books may someday call the start of World War III. After Lithuania's announcement, Russia warned there might be serious consequences for Lithuania as soon as Russia can get some of their tanks fixed. Until then, the remaining Russian forces will be attacking Lithuania with angry social media posts and malware attachments.
Meanwhile, Ukraine received unanimous approval from the EU to be considered as a candidate for membership. This doesn't mean they're offered membership, it just means they're being selected to receive an application. It's the European version of a publisher's clearinghouse letter. Much like their wish to join NATO, there are strict restrictions on nations joining over issues like corruption in government. Ukraine has yet to demonstrate that it has enough to be on par with other NATO nations.
Attorney General Merrick Garland visited Ukraine to meet with the top prosecutor leading the war crimes inquiry. The Attorney General made an unannounced visit to Ukraine Tuesday for a meeting with Ukraine's prosecuting general, Irina Venediktova, to discuss the ongoing effort to identify and apprehend suspected war criminals. He entered the country from the Polish border, reaffirmed continued U.S. assistance, and assured Irina if her gulag fills up, she can use some of the cells where he's been keeping some of the January 6th protesters. A U.S. prosecutor will be assigned to advise Ukrainian officials on legal strategies on fighting high crimes like kleptocracy, corruption, and stealing a podium. There is no hiding place for war criminals, Garland said. He went on to add the Justice Department will be relentless in their efforts to prosecute any criminals who refuse to vote Democrat. Garland is still seeking charges against Mitch McConnell for theft of his Supreme Court seat.
Not to be outdone, comedian Ben Stiller also paid a visit to Ukraine to meet his hero, Vladimir Zelensky. Stiller has been named the ambassador for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees due to his experience watching multitudes of people fleeing the theaters where his films were playing. It appears to be Stiller's strategy to travel to disaster areas around the world to get people to forget the disaster of his last several pictures. While listening to Zelensky bemoan how devastating the bombs have been, Stiller emphasized as he also faced such deadly bombs as Zoolander 2 and Little Fockers.
A pair of former U.S. military servicemen captured fighting in defense of Ukraine have committed war crimes, according to top Kremlin aide. Well, sending tanks into a neighboring country is also a war crime, but who's counting? Anyone who is fighting with Ukraine's armed forces should be treated as a POW, said U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price. I mean, it's not like they tried to overthrow an election or anything. He stands by this statement, even though neither Russia nor the U.S. have declared war in this situation. Price went on to offer proof of their innocence by stating if they were real war criminals, Russia would have already tried to recruit them. Unfortunately, these Americans will most likely be subject to inhumane torture, such as sharing a cell with Brittany Griner, and being forced to listen to her complain about how women's basketball is not given the same respect as men's.
A sprawling 3,000-year-old city emerged in Iraq after a reservoir's water level swiftly dropped due to an extreme drought. Archaeologists were shocked to find the remnants of a submerged city. They were also shocked to find less bodies than were discovered in Lake Mead. Kurdish and German archaeologists excavated the settlement in the Mosul Reservoir in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq. The project was in partnership with the Directorate of Antiquities in an attempt to preserve the area's cultural heritage for future generations of ISIS fighters to loot. The archaeological site, Kamun, is believed to be the Bronze Age city Zakiku, a major hub of the Mitanni Empire that reigned from 1550 to 1350 BC. It is believed the kingdom fell after it was invaded by a larger empire due to it having natural resources they wanted. Ancient tablets suggest they justified this invasion by saying the Mitanni had weapons of mass destruction, which back then meant shiny metal sticks. Unfortunately, no such weapons could be found in the ruins.
Israeli lawmakers voted in favor of dissolving parliament in a preliminary vote on Wednesday. This would give way to the country's 5th national election in the past 3.5 years, which is more frequent than Jewish holidays. The decision came just 2 days after Prime Minister Bennett announced that he would be disbanding his 8-person governing coalition. The coalition was made up both of Israeli and Palestinian officials with the hope that they would make beneficial decisions for both sides and bring them closer to peace. Instead, they offered just throw rocks at each other. Once the dissolution is complete, then it will hand the reins of the country over to Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, who will try to return the country to standard operating procedures, like pretending Palestine just doesn't exist.
Observers report there has been a run on several banks in China. After years of COVID mandates and a deceitful government, the people of China are scared that they will not be able to retrieve their life savings. In some cities, people are standing in line for hours to receive their money from their bank. It's the Chinese version of It's a Wonderful Life, though life in China is anything but wonderful. Depositors have been disappointed to see their life savings zeroed out quicker than Amber Heard's credit rating. And because they're Chinese, an hour later, they go back and check it again. None of them had any warnings this would occur because the Chinese government prohibits any mention of banking business in fortune cookies.
In what could be good news to kids around the world, the CDC has signed off on the use of COVID vaccines for children 5 and under. Both Pfizer and Moderna have been endorsed and approved to ship their vaccines for immediate use. For more on this, we turn it over to Dr. Michael Goombatz. Doctor?
Thank you, Zach. As you just heard, both Pfizer and Moderna have been given the green light to produce and distribute their COVID vaccines for children, which means I get to hear the hashtag Team Pfizer and hashtag Team Moderna wars begin anew. The CDC states these vaccines can be used on kids as young as 6 months, which should be plenty of time to instill the fear of mom's 5G phone into their small, impressionable minds.
And are the companies confident this will help?
Well, yeah, their stocks are up 3% on the news.
I meant help the children.
Oh, probably not. While it's unlikely a child under the age of 5 could contract COVID, CDC data suggests their developing immune systems can't completely dodge it. In fact, children account for over 2 million of the total confirmed COVID cases in the U.S. This seems accurate given how children tend to exist. But anti-vax and conspiracy theorist parents should be relieved, though, as getting the vaccine means they won't have to pay to track their children. So back to you, Heather.
Thank you, Doctor.
When we return, designer brands hit the metaverse and WBS's very own Tommy Bufaki.